Today, we are diving into one of the most brutal and, honestly, most important myths in Greek history. It is a wild story about creation, rebellion, and a shocking act of violence that literally shaped the cosmos. So let's get right into it.
So when you think about the beginning of everything, what comes to mind? Maybe some kind of peaceful, orderly process, a grand divine plan unfolding just perfectly?
Yeah, not even close. In Greek myth, the whole thing kicks off with an absolutely gruesome family drama. We're talking love, hate, and a son taking power from his father in pretty much the most violent way you can imagine. This was the first revolution.
Okay, so our story begins with the very first ruler of the universe, a being with unbelievable power who pretty quickly became a tyrant in his own home. It all starts with Gaia, the Earth Mother. She comes out of chaos, and then she gives birth to Uranus, the starry sky, to basically cover her. He becomes the first king of everything. And then he takes his own mother, Gaia, as his wife.
And their first children were, well, they were something else. First, you have the Hekatoncheires, the 100-handed ones. These were 3 giants, each with 100 arms and 50 heads. Just try to picture that. Then came the 3 Cyclops, huge, one-eyed giants whose names basically translate to thunder, lightning, and bright.
But here's the thing. Uranus was absolutely horrified by his own kids. He was terrified of how they looked and their incredible strength. So what does he do? As soon as they're born, he physically shoves them back deep inside Gaia's womb, trapping them in the abyss of Tartarus where they would never see the light of day.
Can you even imagine that? Gaia, the Earth itself, is forced to carry her own imprisoned children inside of her. The myths are very clear. She was groaning, in constant, unending pain because of her husband's cruelty. And that suffering, well, that's what planted the seeds for a rebellion.
So Gaia's pain finally hits a breaking point, and that deep, agonizing pain, it turns into pure rage. And out of that rage, she comes up with a pretty cunning and incredibly brutal plan for revenge.
From deep inside her own body, Gaia creates this vein of gray adamant. It's like a super hard, unbreakable metal, and forges a massive, jagged sickle. Then she calls together her next group of children, the Titans, who looked a bit more godlike, and she lays out her terrible plan.
She pleaded with them. She basically said, look, we have to punish your father for this vile outrage. He's the one who started all of this. He's the one who first thought of doing these shameful things.
But the Titans? They were terrified of their dad. I mean, who wouldn't be? So there's just this dead silence. None of them dare to speak. Well, except for one, Cronus. He's the youngest, and the myths actually call him the most terrible of her children. He steps forward and tells his mom, I'll do it. I'm not afraid. He deserves it.
Gaia was thrilled. She hands Cronus the sickle, hides him in the perfect ambush spot, and gives him the final instructions. The stage was now set for the first cosmic coup d'etat. So that night, Uranus, the sky, comes down, wanting to be with Gaia, the earth, and as he stretches himself out over her, Cronus springs from his hiding spot. With his left hand, he grabs his father, and with his right, he swings that massive, jagged sickle and cuts off his father's genitals.
Now this was way more than just a gruesome attack. It was a massive cosmic event. By doing this, Cronus didn't just end his father's ability to have more children. He permanently separated the sky from the earth. He ended his father's reign and created the space for the world as we know it to exist.
But the story is far from over. Because from this one singular act of violence, a whole host of new, powerful beings come into existence. Some are absolutely terrifying, and one is, well, astonishingly beautiful.
So check this out. The aftermath created 2 very different kinds of beings. The drops of blood from the wound that fell onto Gaia, the earth, they gave birth to the Furies, who were basically goddesses of vengeance, and the massive spear-wielding giants. But the severed parts that Cronus threw into the sea, they produced something completely different.
As these immortal parts drifted on the ocean, a white foam, the Greek word is aphros, rose up around them. And inside that foam, a maiden began to grow. This foam-born goddess floated first to the island of Cythera, then to Cyprus. And when she finally stepped onto the shore, a beautiful, awe-inspiring goddess had arrived. And this, of course, was Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Her very names tell the story of her unbelievable birth. She's Aphrodite from Aphros, the foam. She's called Cytherium and Cyprogenes after the island she first touched. But then there's this other name, Philomymedes, which literally means genital loving, a pretty shocking and direct reminder of exactly where she came from.
Just think about that paradox for a second. The goddess of love, beauty, desire, and pleasure was born directly from an act of bloody castration and revenge. This idea that creation and destruction, or that love and violence are deeply connected, that's right at the heart of so much of Greek mythology.
And so Uranus was deposed. The world now had one new ruler. Cronus, the revolutionary sun, was now sitting on the cosmic throne.
But here is the final, brutal twist. After freeing his brothers, the Cyclopes and the Hundred-Handers, to help him win the war, Cronus got paranoid. He turned into the very thing he'd fought against. He threw his brothers right back into the darkness of Tartarus, inheriting not just his father's throne, but his father's tyranny too.
Which really leaves us with this one last question. Cronus' revolution got rid of the tyrant for sure. But did it get rid of the tyranny? No. It just set the stage for the next chapter, where another son, Zeus, would have to rise up against his own father, continuing that violent cosmic cycle of power.